The Great Hall of Nexus Prime stretched far beyond what human eyes could see. Sarah stood at the entrance, looking up at walls that seemed to touch the stars themselves. She had never imagined anything could be this big. The ceiling showed live images of space, with thousands of ships moving like tiny lights against the darkness. Sarah wore her best uniform, the blue and white of Earth's new space force. The fabric felt strange after months in zero gravity. Her hands shook slightly as she checked her notes one more time. Everything Earth had learned about aliens was written on these few pages. It was not much. Around her, beings from across the galaxy moved through the halls. Some walked on legs like humans. Others floated in the air or rolled on metal wheels. She saw creatures made of crystal that sang as they moved. There were others that looked like living clouds, shifting and changing color as they drifted past. "Captain," the voice came from a tall, thin being with blue skin and 4 arms. "I am Ambassador. I will take you to the council chamber." Sarah nodded. "Thank you, I'm ready." As they walked, explained how things worked. The Galactic Council has kept peace for 50,000 years. Every species has a role. The handle talks between worlds. The crystalline hive manages trade routes. The void walkers keep order when needed. "What about humans?" Sarah asked. His face showed something that might have been a smile. "That is what we will decide today." The council chamber was even bigger than the hall. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in floating seats, arranged in a great circle. At the center was a platform where Sarah would stand to speak for all humanity. Council speaker was a being made of living crystal. When she spoke, her voice sounded like music. "Today we welcome a new species to our galaxy. The humans of Earth have achieved faster-than-light travel. They seek to join our community of civilized worlds." Sarah walked to the center platform. Her heart beat fast, but she kept her voice steady. "Thank you for seeing us. Earth is honored to be here." A creature that looked like a giant insect raised one of its many arms. "Tell us about your people. What can humans do that others cannot?" Sarah thought carefully. Humans were not the strongest they could not fly or breathe underwater like some aliens. They lived short lives compared to most galactic species. "We adapt," she said finally. "We learn. We do not give up easily." Several council members made sounds that might have been laughter. Sarah felt her face grow red, but she continued. "We know we are new to space. We know we have much to learn, but we want to help. We want to be useful." An elegant being with silver skin spoke next. "Your species is very young. You have been in space for less than 100 years. Most of us have traveled between stars for thousands of years. What makes you think you can contribute anything meaningful?" Sarah's anger flared, but she pushed it down. "Maybe we see things differently because we are new. Sometimes a fresh view helps solve old problems." The crystal being at the front hummed thoughtfully. "The standard process is clear. New species receive junior membership. You will be given a small area of space to explore. You can trade with established species. Over time, if you prove worthy, your status may improve." "How long does that usually take?" Sarah asked. "For most species, between 5 and 10,000 years." Sarah blinked. That was longer than all of recorded human history. "I see." His crystal form glowed softly. "Do not worry. The galaxy is patient. There is no need to rush. Peace depends on stability. Stability comes from everyone knowing their place." The vote was quick and unanimous. Humans would become the 848th member species of the Galactic Council. They would get 73 star systems in an outer arm of the galaxy. Most were empty space. A few had planets that other species found useless. As the meeting ended, Ambassador walked with Sarah back through the great halls. "Your people should be proud," he said. "Membership in the council is a great honor. Even if we're basically being sent to the corner of the galaxy, where we can't bother anyone." "Stopped walking. You sound displeased." These systems are a generous gift. The worlds there are difficult, yes, but they have some resources. With time and patience, your people can build a modest civilization." "Modest," Sarah repeated the word like it tasted bad. "Yes, modest is good. Modest is safe. The galaxy has seen what happens when species try to grow too fast or reach too high. War, destruction, chaos. Better to accept your limitations and find happiness within them." Sarah looked out a window at the busy traffic of starships. Thousands of different designs moved in careful, organized patterns. Everything looked peaceful and orderly. It also looked like it had been the same for a very long time. "What if we don't want to be modest?" Four arms moved in what Sarah was learning meant confusion. "I do not understand. Why would any species want anything other than a safe, stable place in the galactic order?" Sarah thought about Earth. She thought about humans climbing mountains just because they were there. She thought about explorers sailing into unknown oceans. She thought about scientists working for years to solve problems that might not even be solvable. "Because that's not who we are," she said quietly. 3 months later, Sarah stood on the bridge of the first human colony ship heading to their new territory. Behind them, 50 more ships followed. Each one carried 10,000 colonists eager to build new worlds. The admiral in charge of the fleet had asked for volunteers. He expected maybe a few thousand people willing to leave Earth forever. Instead, he got 50 million applications. People fought for the chance to go to planets that aliens said were too dangerous to live on. Sarah watched the stars change from points of light to streams as they jumped to faster-than-light speed. In her pocket was a message from her daughter on Earth. It said the second wave of colony ships would launch next month. The third wave was already being built. The aliens thought they had given humans a quiet corner where they could slowly, carefully, build a modest little civilization. What they had actually done was give humanity room to grow. Sarah smiled as the ship raced toward their new worlds. The galaxy was about to learn something important about humans. They did not do modest. They did not do slow. And they definitely did not do impossible. The Galactic Council had just made the biggest mistake in 50,000 years of careful, stable, peaceful governance. They had given humans a challenge. Ambassador Eth clicked his mandibles in frustration as he read the latest report from the Outer Rim. 6 months ago, the humans had been given 73 star systems that no one else wanted. Now they were somehow making money in places that should have been impossible to live in. "This cannot be right," he muttered, checking the numbers again. His insect-like eyes scanned the data one more time. Human traders were bringing in profits from sectors that had been written off as dead space for thousands of years. Eth called up the records on his screen. System K4471 had a planet with gravity 4 times stronger than most species could survive. The atmosphere was poison. The radiation from twin suns would kill most beings in hours. Every survey team had marked it as completely useless. The humans had put a mining colony there 3 months ago. It now had 50,000 people working round the clock. They were pulling rare metals from the planet's core and selling them at prices that made established mining companies look expensive. "How?" Ed asked his assistant, a young female of his species named. "The humans modified themselves," she replied, bringing up medical scans. "They changed their bones to be stronger. They altered their blood to carry more oxygen. They built underground cities to hide from radiation. And they did it all in less than a year." Ev's antennae twitched with disbelief. Genetic modification takes decades of careful testing. The safety reviews alone require. "The humans skipped most of the safety reviews," interrupted. "They tested the modifications on volunteers who knew they might die. Many of them did die, but enough survived that they could improve the process and try again." "That is barbaric." "The colonists do not seem to think so. They call themselves pioneers. They seem proud of the risks they take." Eth stood up and began packing around his office. His species had been part of the Galactic Council for 8,000 years. They followed rules. They did things the safe way, the proper way, the way that had kept the galaxy peaceful for 50. What about their trade negotiations? He asked. Pulled up another file. Worse, they ignore established protocols completely. Last week, they walked away from a billion-credit deal with the Commerce Guild because they did not like the terms. They walked away from a billion credits. Yes, they told them to take it or leave it. They were so shocked they actually improved their offer. The humans then asked for even better terms, and got them. Eth sat down heavily. In his species' culture, walking away from negotiations was deeply insulting. It suggested you did not respect the other party enough to work things out. But somehow, the humans made it work. There is more, said quietly, the situation. Eth's entire body went rigid. There were raiders who had terrorized the outer rim for centuries. Dozens of species had tried to stop them. Military action failed because the raiders were too fast and too brutal. Diplomatic efforts failed because they seemed to enjoy causing pain. Economic pressure failed because they just stole whatever they needed. What have the humans done? They hired them. Eth stared at his assistant. I beg your pardon. The entire raider fleet now works for human shipping companies. They carry cargo to dangerous systems that other species avoid. The former pirates seem to love their new jobs. How is that possible? Brought up a video file. It showed a human woman sitting across from a massive warrior. The raider looked like he could tear the human apart with his bare hands, but they were having what appeared to be a friendly conversation. The human negotiator said they offered them something better than stealing, explained. They offered them purpose, a chance to be useful instead of just destructive. Eth watched the video in stunned silence. The warrior was actually laughing at something the human had said. These were beings that other species crossed the galaxy to avoid, and this tiny human was treating them like old friends. The raider clans get steady pay, structured work, and respect for their warrior culture, continued. In return, they provide protection and transport services to places too dangerous for normal shipping. Both sides seem very happy with the arrangement. Eth turned off the video. This is not how things are supposed to work. No, Ambassador, it is not. Eth called an emergency meeting of the Council Subcommittee on Human Affairs. 3 other ambassadors joined him in the secure conference room on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Varix of the Ethereal Dominion spoke first. Her energy-based form flickered with worried colors. My people are concerned about human energy projects. They are building collection arrays around pulsars and black holes. Those are extremely dangerous power sources. Dangerous but profitable, added Trade Representative. His rock-like species controlled mining operations across 17 systems. They are underselling us on energy costs by 40%. How is that possible? Ith asked. They accept risk levels that we would consider suicidal, Varix explained. But somehow it works. Their accident rates are actually lower than ours, even though they work in much more dangerous conditions. Senior Counselor Bate, an elderly diplomat, spoke in her calm voice. The pattern is clear. Humans do not accept the limitations that have governed galactic civilization for. Where we see impossible barriers, they see interesting challenges. Eth looked around the table. Are we saying they are better than us? No, Bate replied. We are saying they are different, fundamentally different, and that difference is starting to change everything around them. On the screen in front of them, a map of human territory appeared. What had been 73 empty star systems 6 months ago now showed bustling trade routes, growing colonies, and expanding industrial operations. Look at the growth rate, Bate continued. At this pace, they will have expanded into neighboring sectors within 5 years, not through conquest but through simple economic pressure. Who will trade with us when the humans offer better prices, faster service, and solutions to problems we cannot solve? Trade representatives shifted uncomfortably. My own clients are asking why they should use traditional shipping when human companies can deliver goods safely to systems we mark as too dangerous. The other species are starting to notice, Varix added. Some are asking the humans to teach them these new methods. Eth felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. What do you mean? The Void Stalkers have started training with human military advisors. The Crystal Singers are studying human problem-solving techniques. Even some of the younger members of my own species are talking about thinking like humans. Bate pulled up another chart. This is the real concern. Humans are not just changing how they do things. They are changing how everyone else thinks about what is possible. The room fell silent as they all studied the data. Every projection showed the same thing. Human influence was growing exponentially, not through force or threats but through success. What do we do? Eth asked. I do not know, Bate admitted. This situation has never existed before. In 50,000 years of galactic history, no species has ever expanded this quickly or disrupted established systems this thoroughly. And they are just getting started, Varix said softly. According to our intelligence, they are planning colonies in systems we have not even explored yet. They are developing technologies that our scientists say should take centuries to perfect, and they are doing it all while remaining technically within Council guidelines. Eth looked out the window at the orderly traffic around Nexus Prime. For 50,000 years, this had been the center of galactic civilization. Stable, peaceful, predictable. He had a growing feeling that those days were ending. The humans had been in the galaxy for less than a year, and they were already changing everything. The terrifying part was that they did not seem to be doing it on purpose. They were just being human. And apparently, that was enough to turn the galaxy upside down. Doctor had spent 30 years studying galactic economics. He had written 12 books on trade patterns and stability. He understood how the galaxy worked better than almost anyone, which was why the numbers on his screen made absolutely no sense. Run it again, he told his assistant, Dr. Sarah. Check every calculation. Sarah nodded and began typing rapidly. Her fingers moved across the holographic keyboard as streams of data filled the air around them. Numbers, charts, and projection models danced in three-dimensional space as the computer ran its analysis for the 7th time. Same result, Sarah said quietly. At current growth rates, humans will control 30% of galactic GDP within 50 years. Stared at the projection floating in front of him. 30%. In galactic history, no single species had ever controlled more than 8%. That had taken 3,000 years to reach that level, and they were considered the most influential civilization in the galaxy. That has to be wrong, muttered. No one grows that fast. The data does not lie, Sarah replied. She pulled up a detailed breakdown. Human colonies have grown from 73 systems to over 2,000 in just 2 years. Their trade volume has increased by 4,000%. Their technological advancement rate is completely unprecedented. Walked to the window of his research station orbiting the academic world of. Below, he could see the great libraries and universities where species from across the galaxy came to study and learn. It was a peaceful place, dedicated to knowledge and understanding. But even here, things were changing. Show me the recruitment numbers, he said. Sarah brought up another chart. 57 different species have sent students to human universities. 12 species have signed exclusive research partnerships with human institutions. The waiting list for human technical training programs is now over 2 years long. Why asked, what are they teaching that we cannot? Practical problem solving, Sarah explained. The humans do not spend decades on theoretical study before trying something new. They build prototypes, test them, fail, improve, and try again. Students say they learn more in 6 months of human training than in 6 years of traditional education. Pulled up records from the crystalline hive, the species that had controlled data processing for. Their technology was based on careful, precise crystal matrices that took centuries to grow properly. It was elegant, stable, and absolutely reliable. 3 months ago, humans had introduced something they called quantum biological hybrid computers. The devices combined artificial crystals with living neural tissue in ways that should have been impossible. The crystalline hive's top scientists had declared it theoretical nonsense. The hybrid computers were now processing information 50 times faster than the best hive systems. Orders for crystalline technology had dropped by 70% in 2 months. "Look at this," Sarah said, bringing up shipping reports. The ethereal dominion used to control all major energy production. Now human companies are building power collectors around black holes, neutron stars, and gravitational anomalies. They are selling energy at 60% below traditional rates. "How do they not kill themselves doing that?" asked. "They do die sometimes," Sarah admitted. "But they see it as an acceptable cost for advancement. They train for extremely dangerous jobs the way military forces train for war. Most species would never accept those casualty rates, but humans see it as normal workplace risk." Sat down heavily. "Show me the pattern analysis." The holographic display shifted to show human expansion across the galaxy. What saw made his stomach drop. The humans were not expanding randomly. Every colony, every trade route, every partnership followed a clear strategic pattern. "They are taking control of every major trade," he said slowly. "Yes," Sarah confirmed, "and every strategic resource deposit, and every technology that could potentially limit their growth. But the strange thing is, they do not seem to be doing it on purpose." "What do you mean?" Sarah pulled up recordings of human business meetings. "Listen to how they talk. They do not say, 'Let us control this resource to gain power.' They say, 'This looks useful. Let us figure out how to make it work better.' They do not plan for domination. They just see opportunities and take them." Watched humans discussing their latest project, a plan to build cities inside gas giant atmospheres. They talked about it the same way other species might discuss a simple trade agreement. To them, it was just another interesting challenge. "They think this is normal," realized. "That is what makes them so dangerous," Sarah said. "They do not see limitations the way other species do. Where we see impossible, they see difficult but maybe doable. Where we see dangerous, they see challenging but worth trying." Called an emergency session of the Galactic Economic Council. Representatives from 30 major civilizations gathered in the secure chamber on Nexus Prime. The tension in the room was clear from the moment the meeting began. "We all know why we are here," said without preamble. "The human situation has moved beyond a normal integration challenge. They represent a fundamental threat to galactic stability." Trade Minister of the Commerce Federation raised a tentacled arm. "Our shipping profits have dropped 40% in 6 months. Human companies are offering services we cannot match at prices we cannot compete with." "It gets worse," added Director L from the Manufacturing Guild. "They are not just undercutting our prices. They are making our entire business model obsolete. Why would anyone use traditional manufacturing when humans can custom build anything in half the time?" Brought up his projections. "The mathematics are clear. If current trends continue, human economic influence will surpass all of ours combined within a generation. But the real problem is not their growth rate." "Then what is it?" asked Counselor of the Stability Authority. "The real problem is that they are changing the rules of the game itself," explained. "For 50,000 years, galactic civilization has been based on specialization. Each species had its role, its area of expertise, its place in the greater system. The humans refuse to stay in any single role." Sarah activated a display showing human activities across multiple sectors. They are simultaneously revolutionizing mining, manufacturing, energy production, shipping, and research. No species has ever tried to compete in that many areas at once. Because it is impossible, protested. No single species can master every field of endeavor. Tell that to the humans, replied grimly. They have mining operations in places too dangerous for traditional companies, research facilities that solve problems faster than our best universities, and manufacturing plants that can build anything from starships to computers. And they are just getting started. The chamber fell silent as the representatives absorbed the implications. Are you saying they are deliberately trying to replace us all? Asked. No, said. That is what makes this so terrifying. They are not trying to destroy our civilizations. They are just trying to do everything better than we do it. And they are succeeding. Director L's robotic voice carried a note of disbelief. How is that possible? They have been in space for less than 100 years. We have been perfecting our technologies for. Because they approach problems differently, Sarah explained. We perfect our technologies slowly, carefully, avoiding risk. They try hundreds of different approaches quickly, learn from failures, and improve rapidly. By the time we have finished our safety studies, they have already built and tested 50 different solutions. Pulled up recruitment data that made several representatives gasp. But here is the most concerning trend. Other species are abandoning their traditional methods to study human techniques. The Void Stalkers are learning human military tactics. The Crystal Singers are studying human creativity methods. Even the conservative hegemony has started sending students to human schools. This is cultural contamination, said angrily. The stability of galactic civilization depends on each species maintaining its traditional role and methods. Yes, agreed. And that stability is ending. The humans are not just changing their own civilization. They are changing everyone around them. Species that have followed the same patterns for thousands of years are suddenly questioning everything they thought they knew. Trade Minister spoke quietly. If this continues, what happens to the old order? Looked around the chamber at representatives of civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for. Each one looked frightened and confused. The old order dies, he said simply. Not through conquest or war, but through obsolescence. The humans do not need to destroy us. They just need to keep being better than us at everything we thought we were good at. The meeting ended in stunned silence. As the representatives filed out, remained behind with Sarah, staring at the projections that showed humanity's continuing growth. Is there anything we can do to stop this? Sarah asked. Considered the question carefully. Stop them from what? They are not breaking any laws. They are not threatening anyone with violence. They are just living their lives and trying to make things better. But they are destroying everything we have built. No, said slowly. They are building something new, something that makes everything we have built look small and slow and limited. He paused, watching the data streams flow across their displays. The question is not whether we can stop them. The question is whether we can learn to live in the galaxy they are creating. Outside the station's windows, the stars continued their ancient dance, unchanged by the economic revolution taking place among them, but knew that within those star systems, everything was changing. The humans had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again. Admiral Sarah stood on the observation deck of the battleship Persistence, watching the diplomatic fleet approach. 50 ships from across the galaxy moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the symbols of species that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. At the center flew the crystal ship of Council Speaker herself. Sarah had come a long way from the nervous captain who first addressed the Galactic Council 5 years ago. Now she commanded the human stellar navy, oversaw colonies on 3,000 worlds, and managed trade relationships with over 200 species. She had not planned for any of this. It had just happened, one logical step after another. "Admiral," her aide Commander Torres said quietly, "the Council delegation is requesting permission to board." "Granted," Sarah replied. "Full honors. Whatever they want to talk about, it is important enough to bring the speaker herself." Sarah made her way to the main conference room, where her staff had prepared for the most significant diplomatic meeting in recent galactic history. The room was large enough to accommodate delegates from dozens of species, with life support systems adjusted for beings who breathed everything from methane to pure energy. Council speaker entered first, her crystalline form casting rainbow patterns on the walls. Behind her came representatives from every major civilization in the galaxy. Sarah recognized most of them from intelligence reports. These were not junior diplomats. These were the leaders of species that had shaped galactic policy for. "Admiral," said, her musical voice carrying harmonics that Sarah's translation device marked as extreme urgency. "Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." "Of course, Speaker. Please have a seat." Sarah gestured to the specially designed chairs that could accommodate the various alien body types. "What can I do for you?" Ambassador Eth of the hegemony leaned forward, his insect-like features twitching with agitation. "Admiral, we come to discuss the current trajectory of human expansion. The Council is prepared to offer humanity significant concessions in exchange for certain limitations on your growth." Sarah blinked. "I am sorry, could you be more specific?" Activated a holographic display that showed human territory across the galaxy. What had once been a small cluster of systems now spread across 3 spiral arms like a glowing web of interconnected trade routes and colonies. "In 5 years, humanity has grown from a single world to controlling over 3,000 star systems," explained. "Your economic influence now affects the entire galactic economy. Your technological advances have made several established industries obsolete. Your recruitment of other species has disrupted traditional alliances that have existed for." "Yes," Sarah said slowly, "we have been very fortunate. Hard work and good luck have served us well." Trade Minister spoke up, his tentacles writhing with emotion. "Admiral, with respect, this goes far beyond luck. Human expansion represents the fastest civilization growth in recorded galactic history. At current rates, you will effectively control the galaxy's economy within a generation." Sarah looked around the table at faces that showed fear, anger, and desperation. These beings had ruled the galaxy for longer than human civilization had existed, and they were scared of her people. The realization was both flattering and troubling. "What exactly are you asking for?" she said. Crystalline form pulsed with soft light. "The Council is prepared to offer humanity permanent seats on the ruling board, expanded territory rights, preferential trade agreements, and technology-sharing partnerships. In exchange, we need assurance that human expansion will moderate to sustainable levels." "You want us to slow down?" "We want you to find your place in the galactic order," Ambassador Eth clarified. "Every species has a role, a specialty, a position in the greater community. The system has worked for 50,000 years." Sarah leaned back in her chair, trying to process what she was hearing. "You are asking us to accept artificial limits on our growth and development." "We are asking you to accept reasonable constraints that allow for galactic stability," replied. "Unlimited expansion leads to conflict. Conflict leads to war. War leads to the destruction of everything we have built together." "But we are not at war with anyone," Sarah pointed out. Director L of the Manufacturing Guild spoke in his mechanical voice. "Admiral, you may not see it as war, but the effect is the same. Human companies have destroyed entire industries that have existed for thousands of years. Human colonies have displaced trade routes that were established before your species discovered fire. Human recruitment has broken apart alliances and partnerships that form the foundation of galactic civilization." Sarah stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. In the distance, she could see human ships working alongside vessels from a dozen different species. Former pirates, ancient warriors, energy beings, and crystal entities, all wearing human insignia and working together on projects that would have been impossible under the old system. "I think there has been a fundamental misunderstanding," she said finally, turning back to face the delegation. "You seem to think we are conquering the galaxy. We are not. We are just living in it." The representative's tentacles twisted in confusion. "Your living has displaced 13 major trade networks, revolutionized 7 industries, and completely destabilized the balance of power that maintained galactic peace for 50. "Yes," Sarah nodded. "That is what tends to happen when humans live somewhere. We do not do it on purpose, we just cannot help ourselves." She returned to her seat. "We see inefficiencies, we fix them. We see challenges, we meet them. We see opportunities, we take them. It is not conquest. It is just Tuesday." The delegation exchanged looks of growing horror. "You have to understand," Sarah continued, "we tried to fit into your system. We really did. For the first few months, we followed all the guidelines. We stayed in our assigned territory. We accepted the limitations you placed on us. We tried to be the modest little civilization you wanted us to be." "What changed?" asked. Sarah smiled sadly. "Nothing changed. That is the problem. We are human. We cannot stop being human just because it makes other people uncomfortable." Commander Torres activated another display, showing human colonies on worlds that other species had declared uninhabitable. "Your system was built around the assumption that everyone would accept limitations as permanent," he explained. "That they would stay in their assigned roles and never try to do better. Humans do not work that way." "We tried to mine only the easy asteroids," Sarah continued. "But then we looked at the hard ones and thought, maybe we could figure out how to mine those too. We tried to trade only with established partners, but then we met the raiders and thought, maybe they just need better job opportunities." Ambassador Eth clicked his mandibles nervously. "You are saying that you cannot control your own expansion." "I am saying that asking humans to stop improving things is like asking water to stop being wet," Sarah replied. "It is not malicious. It is not aggressive. It is just our nature." The room fell silent as the implication sank in. "Then what you are telling us," said slowly, "is that this process cannot be stopped." Sarah looked around the table at the frightened faces of species that had ruled the galaxy since before humanity had discovered agriculture. She felt genuine sadness for what they were going through. "I am telling you that trying to limit human growth and development is pointless," she said gently. "Not because we want to hurt you, but because we cannot help being what we are. And what we are is a species that refuses to accept that impossible means impossible." "But the stability," Eth began. "Your stability was built on stagnation," Commander Torres interrupted. 50,000 years of everyone staying in their assigned roles, accepting their limitations, never trying to do better than their ancestors. That is not stability. That is just very slow death." Crystalline form flickered through colors that Sarah's translator could not interpret. "Are you saying our civilization is dying?" "I am saying your civilization stopped growing a long time ago," Sarah replied. "You achieved a comfortable equilibrium and decided to maintain it forever. But equilibrium is not life. Life grows, changes, adapts, improves. That is what makes it alive." Trade Minister spoke quietly. "Then there is nothing we can do to preserve the old order." Sarah looked out the window again at the mixed fleets working together in space. Human ships designed with alien technology. Alien crews trained in human methods. Former enemies working side by side on projects that would benefit everyone. "The old order is already gone," she said. "It ended the moment you invited humans into the galaxy, not because we destroyed it, but because we offered something better." The delegation sat in stunned silence, finally understanding what they were really facing. This was not a war they could win or lose. This was not a negotiation they could manage. This was evolution in action, and they were being left behind. "What happens now?" asked. Sarah turned back to the table with a smile that was both sad and hopeful. "Now you decide whether you want to be part of building something new, or whether you want to spend your remaining years mourning something that is already dead." The Council's plea for peace had come too late, not because humanity was at war, but because peace was never what the galaxy had really needed. What it needed was a future, and humans were very good at building those. Commander stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, watching the morning shift change with a cup of coffee in her hand. The station was the largest artificial structure in galactic history, a massive ring around a dwarf star that served as the new center of cooperation. Through the transparent walls, she could see ships from over 300 different species moving in carefully coordinated patterns that would have been impossible 10 years ago. "Still amazes you, does it not?" a familiar voice said behind her. Turned to see Ambassador Eth approaching, his chitinous shell now decorated with colorful patterns that would have scandalized traditional hegemony society. His mandibles moved in what she had learned was the insect equivalent of a smile. "Every morning," admitted. 10 years ago, most of these species had never even spoken to each other. Now look at them." She pointed to a massive cargo vessel that was docking at Platform 7. The ship's hull showed the combined symbols of the crystalline hive, the ethereal dominion, and 3 human colonies. Its crew would be a mixture of species working together on supply runs to the galaxy's frontier regions. "The quarterly integration report," Eth offered, extending a data pad with one of his 4 arms. 17 new species have requested partnership agreements this period. Took the pad and scrolled through the numbers. Each month brought new civilizations who wanted to join what beings across the galaxy had started calling the human model of development. It was not conquest or absorption. It was something entirely new. "Any problems with the applications?" Eth's antennae twitched with amusement. "The usual. They all want to know the secret to human success. They want the formula, the technique, the special technology that allows humans to achieve impossible things." "And you tell them what you told me 5 years ago when my own species joined the partnership. There is no secret. Humans just refuse to accept that impossible means impossible. You try anyway, and sometimes it works." Eth paused. "They never believe it at first." Nodded, remembering her own disbelief when she first learned how quickly human civilization had transformed the galaxy. She had been a junior officer on a traditional exploration vessel when the changes began. Now she was coordinator of the largest international cooperation project in galactic history. "Show me the development statistics," she said. Eth activated a holographic display that filled the space between them. The galaxy appeared as a 3-dimensional map with trade routes, colonies, and research stations marked in different colors. What saw made her heart swell with pride. 10 years ago, there had been fewer than 1,000 partnerships in the entire galaxy. Most civilizations stuck to their own kind, following trade patterns and political arrangements that had not changed in. The map had been static, predictable, and frankly boring. Now, the display showed over 50,000 active joint projects. Species that had never met were working together on ventures that pushed the boundaries of science, engineering, and exploration. Former enemies were teaching each other their greatest secrets. Ancient civilizations were learning from newcomers who had been in space for less than a century. "The Void Stalkers just opened their first university campus," Eth reported. "They are offering degrees in both traditional warrior culture and human-style adaptive strategy." Laughed. The Void Stalkers had been the galaxy's most feared enforcers for thousands of years. Now they were professors, teaching young beings from dozens of species how to combine ancient wisdom with innovative thinking. What about the Crystal Singers? Their new symphony premieres next month. It is a collaborative piece involving musicians from 18 different species, including 3 that communicate only through mathematical equations. Eth's mandibles clicked rapidly. They say it will be the most complex musical composition ever attempted. Walked along the observation deck, watching the controlled chaos of cooperation below. A team of ethereal energy beings was working with human engineers to build a new type of faster-than-light drive. Crystalline Hive technicians were training